The chapel was cold despite the packed crowd. I stood in the front row, black dress clinging to my trembling frame, watching William's father's casket surrounded by white lilies. My father-in-law, Robert Chambers, had been my anchor in this family for 12 years. Now he was gone, and I felt utterly alone. The priest's voice droned through psalms I couldn't focus on. Then the chapel doors opened. Every head turned as a woman in a fitted black dress walked down the aisle. She was stunning, with auburn hair and confidence that made the room shrink. But what stopped my heart wasn't her beauty. It was the sapphire necklace hanging around her neck, catching the dim chapel light. That necklace. The one Robert had given me for our 10th anniversary. The one William claimed he'd lost 6 months ago when he borrowed it for cleaning. The one I'd cried over for weeks. She was wearing my necklace at my father-in-law's funeral. My vision blurred. William tensed beside me. The woman's eyes found mine across the crowded chapel, and she smiled slightly before taking a seat in the back row. My hands gripped the wooden pew, so hard my knuckles turned white. The sapphire necklace gleamed against her pale skin, impossibly bright in the somber chapel. I'd memorized every detail of that necklace during the 2 years I'd owned it. The way the 3 sapphires graduated in size. The delicate silver chain Robert had specially commissioned. The tiny inscription on the clasp that read, "For Claire, with love." That was my necklace.
Mine.
Robert had presented it to me at our anniversary dinner, his eyes warm with affection. "You're the daughter I never had," he'd told me that night. "This belonged to my mother. I want you to have it now." I'd worn it constantly until William asked to borrow it 6 months ago. "Just getting it professionally cleaned, darling," he'd assured me. "It deserves proper care." 2 weeks later, he claimed the jeweler had lost it. He'd seemed genuinely distressed, promising to file insurance claims and police reports. I'd believed every word. Now this stranger wore my inheritance, my connection to Robert, at his funeral. The woman sat calmly in the back, occasionally dabbing her eyes with a tissue, performing grief. The priest continued speaking about Robert's legacy, his business success, his devotion to family. I heard none of it. My mind raced through 6 months of William's behavior. The late nights at the office. The sudden business trips. The way he'd stop touching me casually, no more hand-holding or spontaneous kisses. I'd attributed it to stress from his father's declining health. Now those puzzle pieces rearranged themselves into a horrifying picture. The woman adjusted the necklace, drawing my attention again. She knew I was watching. There was something deliberate in the way she touched it, running her fingers along the chain. This wasn't accidental.
She wanted me to see.
William shifted beside me, his jaw clenched tight. He'd noticed me staring. "Claire," he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "Pay attention. People are watching." People were watching, but not the service. They were watching me watch her. I could feel their curious gazes, the whispered questions. Who was she? Why was she here? The elderly woman next to me, Robert's sister Margaret, leaned close. "Do you know that woman, dear?" she asked softly. I shook my head, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The service ended with a final prayer. People stood, gathering their coats and purses, preparing for the processional to the cemetery. The woman remained seated, her head bowed as if in deep contemplation. William's hand pressed against my lower back, guiding me toward the exit. "We need to lead the processional," he murmured, his voice carefully neutral. I planted my feet, refusing to move. "Who is she?" William's face remained blank, but his eyes flickered toward the back pew. "Who is who, Claire? There are 200 people here." "The woman wearing my necklace." His expression didn't change, but I felt him tense through his suit jacket. "I don't know what you're talking about. We need to go. Everyone's waiting." He applied more pressure to my back, practically pushing me toward the door. I stumbled forward, my heels catching on the carpet. People streamed past us, offering condolences I couldn't process. The woman finally stood, moving gracefully through the crowd. She was heading straight toward us. My heart hammered against my ribs. She walked with purpose, her eyes locked on William.
"Not me."
"William." When she reached us, she placed her hand gently on his arm. I'm so sorry for your loss, she said to William, her voice honey-sweet and intimate. Too intimate for a stranger. Her hand lingered on his arm, fingers pressing into his suit sleeve. Your father was an incredible man. William's face flushed red. Thank you. That's very kind. He tried to step away, but she held firm. Her gaze finally shifted to me, and I saw something cold beneath her sympathetic expression. Calculation. You must be Claire, she said, extending her free hand. I've heard so much about you. I stared at her offered hand, then at the necklace. Up close, I could see the tiny scratch on the largest sapphire, the one I'd accidentally made when I caught it on a door handle last year. This was definitely my necklace. Where did you get that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She glanced down at the necklace, touching it lightly. It was a gift. Beautiful, isn't it? From who? Her smile widened. Someone who appreciated me. William grabbed my elbow, his grip painful. Claire, we need to go. Now. He practically dragged me toward the exit, leaving the woman standing alone in the chapel aisle. She didn't look offended. She looked satisfied. The cemetery was a blur of black umbrellas and gray headstones. It had started raining, a cold drizzle that soaked through my coat. I stood at the graveside, watching Robert's casket being lowered into the earth, and felt nothing but numb confusion. William stood stiffly beside me, maintaining proper distance now, playing the grieving son for the assembled crowd. The woman had followed in her own car. She stood at the edge of the gathering, slightly separate from the family group, but close enough to be noticed. Still wearing my necklace. Still watching us. After the final prayers, people began dispersing to their cars. Margaret touched my shoulder gently. The reception is at our house, dear. Will you be coming? I nodded automatically. Margaret's eyes drifted to the woman in the distance. That woman with the auburn hair. Do you know her name? No, I admitted. But I'm going to find out. Margaret's expression turned knowing. Robert mentioned someone once. A few months before he got sick. He seemed troubled by something involving William. My stomach dropped. What did he say? He didn't give details. But he made me promise to look after you, if anything happened to him. She squeezed my shoulder. Whatever's going on, you're not alone, Claire. The reception at Margaret's sprawling Victorian home was suffocating. People filled every room, eating catered food and sharing Robert stories. I moved through the crowd mechanically, accepting condolences, nodding at appropriate moments. All while searching for the woman. William had disappeared somewhere, probably hiding. I found him on the back porch, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in urgent whispers. He didn't notice me approach. I told you not to come, he hissed into the phone. This is insane. Do you have any idea what you've done?
Pause.
His face contorted with anger and something else.
Fear.
We'll talk about this later. Stay away from Claire. He ended the call and turned, nearly jumping when he saw me standing there. Christ, Claire. You scared me. Who was that? I demanded. Work. A client having an emergency. His lie was obvious now that I knew to look for them. The way his eyes shifted left. The forced casualness in his voice. William, I want to know who that woman is. The one wearing my necklace. He sighed, running his hand through his hair. Claire, today isn't the day for this. My father just died. And some stranger showed up wearing the necklace your father gave me. The necklace you said was lost. William's face hardened. You're being paranoid. Lots of people have sapphire necklaces. With the same scratch? With the same inscription? That stopped him. His mouth opened, then closed. You looked at it that closely? I didn't need to look closely. I know my own necklace, William. He moved toward the porch door, trying to escape again. We'll discuss this at home. I can't deal with your jealousy right now. My jealousy? My voice rose. That woman knew you. She touched you like she had the right to. Who is she? Keep your voice down, William hissed, glancing through the window where guests mingled inside. People will hear you. I don't care who hears me. But I did care. Despite everything, I lowered my voice. You're having an affair. That's why she has my necklace. You gave it to her. William's expression shifted from defensive to cruel. You're hysterical. Grief is making you imagine things. Maybe you should take something to calm down. He walked back inside, leaving me standing alone on the porch in the rain. Through the window, I watched him rejoin the gathering, accepting sympathetic hugs and handshakes. Playing the devoted son. The perfect husband. I pulled out my phone and started searching. Within minutes, I found the woman on social media. Her profile was public, filled with photos of expensive restaurants, luxury vacations, and designer clothes. Her name was Vanessa Cole. According to her profile, she worked in marketing. I scrolled through months of photos, looking for any connection to William. Then I found it. A photo from 8 months ago. A charity gala. William and I had attended, one of the last social events before Robert got sick. In the background of a group photo, barely visible, was Vanessa. She was looking at William. Even in that small, distant shot, the way she looked at him was unmistakable. I zoomed in on other photos from that night. There she was again, lingering near our table. And again, standing close to William at the bar. How had I missed this? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We should talk. Privately. I can explain about the necklace. I stared at the message, my hands shaking. This had to be from Vanessa. Before I could respond, another message came through. I know you have questions. I have answers. Coffee tomorrow at Riverside Cafe, 10 a.m. Every instinct screamed this was a trap. But I needed to know the truth. My fingers typed before my brain could stop them. I'll be there. 3 dots appeared immediately. Come alone. This is between us. I went back inside, searching for William. I found him in Robert's study with several other family members, sorting through paperwork. William looked up when I entered, his expression guarded.
Claire.
We're just handling some estate matters. Can this wait? No, I said firmly. We need to talk.
Now.
His jaw tightened, but he excused himself and followed me to an empty bedroom upstairs. The moment the door closed, he turned on me. What the hell is wrong with you today? I'm trying to grieve my father, and you're obsessing over some random woman and a necklace. Stop lying to me, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Her name is Vanessa Cole. You met her 8 months ago at the charity gala. And she's not random. William's face went pale. How do you? I'm not stupid, William. I found the photos. I saw how she looked at you. He sat heavily on the bed, head in his hands. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Tell me why she has my necklace. Silence stretched between us. Outside the door, I could hear the murmur of voices, the clink of glasses. Normal sounds of a funeral reception while my marriage collapsed. Finally, William looked up. I didn't give her that necklace. I swear. Then how does she have it? I don't know, Claire. Maybe it's a different necklace. Maybe you're seeing things that aren't there because you're grieving. I met Vanessa at Riverside Cafe the next morning. She was already there, sitting at a corner table, the necklace prominently displayed against a white silk blouse. She stood when I approached, her smile warm but not reaching her eyes. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I sat without accepting her offered hand. Tell me about the necklace. Vanessa laughed softly, sitting across from me. I appreciate that. William told me you were the straightforward type. Hearing her say his name so casually felt like a slap. How long? She tilted her head. How long what? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? The elderly couple at the next table glanced over. Vanessa's smile faded slightly. 10 months. Since the gala. 10 months. Almost a year. While Robert was dying. While I cared for his father, William was with her. The necklace, I repeated, my voice shaking. William gave it to me 3 months ago. Said it was from an estate sale. She touched it gently. I only realized it was yours when I saw your wedding photos online. Robert was wearing it in one of the pictures, with you beside him. So you wore it to his funeral deliberately. Vanessa's expression hardened. I wore it because William gave it to me. Because your father-in-law knew about us. My blood went cold. What did you say? Vanessa leaned forward, her voice dropping. Robert knew about William and me. He caught us together about 6 months ago. William was terrified his father would write him out of the will. The room spun. Robert had known all those final months sitting by his bedside, holding his hand, and he'd known William was betraying me? You're lying, I whispered. Am I? Ask yourself why Robert changed his will 3 months before he died. Why he suddenly added new conditions. I had no idea what she was talking about. What conditions? You'll find out soon enough. The lawyer's reading the will this week, isn't it? She stood, gathering her designer purse. William didn't just give me a necklace, Claire. He gave me promises. He said once the inheritance came through, he'd leave you. We'd start fresh somewhere new. She walked toward the exit, then paused. But I'm not sure William ever intended to keep those promises. Men like him never do. After she left, I sat alone at the table for an hour, coffee growing cold, mind racing through implications. If Robert knew about the affair, why hadn't he told me? What was in the will that Vanessa found so significant? I drove straight to Margaret's house. She answered on the second ring, her expression shifting to concern when she saw my face. Claire, dear, what's happened? I told her everything. About Vanessa, the necklace, the affair, and her claim that Robert knew. Margaret's face aged 10 years as she listened. When I finished, she led me to her sitting room and poured us both tea with shaking hands. I was afraid of this, she said quietly. 3 months before he died, Robert called me. Said he needed to change his will urgently. He was troubled, angry even. I'd never heard him so upset. What did he say? That William had disappointed him profoundly. That he'd made provisions to protect you. She set down her teacup. He also mentioned a woman. Said she'd been manipulating William, but that William was weak enough to allow it. Did he say her name? Margaret shook her head. He just called her that woman. But he said she'd been involved with the family business somehow. That's how she and William met. My mind raced. Vanessa said she works in marketing. William's company hired a marketing firm about a year ago, Margaret confirmed, to rebrand after some financial troubles. Robert wasn't happy about it. Said they were spending money they didn't have. The will reading was scheduled for Thursday at Robert's lawyer's office. I arrived early, my stomach in knots. William was already there, sitting stiffly in the leather chair across from the lawyer's massive desk. He didn't acknowledge me when I entered. Margaret arrived next, then Robert's business partner, Frank Morrison. We sat in uncomfortable silence until the lawyer, Gerald Patterson, cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. Robert's will is relatively straightforward, with one significant exception. He opened the folder, adjusting his glasses. The bulk of Robert's estate, including the family home and his share of the business, goes to William. However, there are conditions. William leaned forward. What conditions? The inheritance is held in trust for 1 year. During that time, William must remain married to Claire. If they divorce or separate for any reason, the entire inheritance passes to Claire instead. The room went silent. William's face turned purple. That's insane. He can't do that. He absolutely can, Gerald said calmly. And did. Robert was very specific about his reasoning. He pulled out a handwritten letter. He left this explanation. Gerald began reading Robert's words. My son has shown poor judgment in his personal affairs. I have discovered actions that deeply disappoint me. Claire has been a devoted daughter to me, and I will not see her cast aside without protection. William exploded. This is blackmail. He can't force me to stay married. The will is legal and binding, Gerald continued. There's more. Robert also left a separate inheritance directly to Claire. $200,000 plus the sapphire necklace that belonged to his mother. I gasped. But I thought the necklace was lost. Gerald frowned. Lost? No, it should be in the estate lockbox. Let me check. He excused himself, returning minutes later with a small velvet box. My hands trembled as he handed it to me. Inside was a sapphire necklace. But it wasn't mine. The sapphires were different sizes, the chain was gold instead of silver, and there was no inscription. "This isn't the necklace Robert gave me," I said slowly. Gerald looked confused. "This is the necklace described in his mother's estate documents." "Are you certain?" William's face had gone gray. He knew. He'd given Vanessa my necklace, the real family heirloom, thinking he could replace it with this fake. Robert must have discovered the switch. Margaret spoke up. "Robert gave Claire his mother's necklace 2 years ago. For their 10th anniversary. This isn't it." Gerald made notes. "This is concerning. If the original necklace was part of the estate and has been misappropriated, that's a legal matter." William stood abruptly. "I need air." I followed William into the hallway. He was leaning against the wall, breathing hard. "You gave her my necklace," I said. "The real one. And Robert found out." William's laugh was bitter. "You want to know what happened?"
I'll tell you.
"I met Vanessa last year when Dad was starting to lose it. She understood me. She didn't judge me for wanting more than this suffocating family legacy." "So you stole from me to impress her?" "I borrowed the necklace to have it appraised. Vanessa mentioned she loved sapphires, and I thought maybe I could buy her something similar. But when the appraiser told me how much your necklace was worth, I realized it was perfect." My stomach churned. "So you gave her my inheritance?" "I gave her a gift. I didn't think you'd notice it was gone. You barely wore it anymore." "Because I was taking care of your dying father." My voice echoed down the hallway. "I was at the hospital every day while you were with her." William pushed off the wall. "You want to know the worst part? Dad caught us. Not with the necklace, with Vanessa. In his office, 3 days after he had his first stroke. The confession hung between us. He was barely recovered, could hardly speak, and he saw us." William's eyes were red. "That's when he changed the will." That evening, I sat in my car outside our house, unable to go inside. Instead, I drove to Robert's grave. The earth was still fresh, the headstone not yet placed. I knelt in the damp grass, rain starting to fall again. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "You tried to protect me, and I didn't even know." My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Meet me at the office." William's old office in the building. "Tonight. I have something you need to see." This was clearly a trap, but I didn't care anymore. I drove to the office building where William and Robert had run their business. The security guard recognized me and waved me through. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, my heart pounding. The office was dark except for one light in the back. Vanessa stood by the window, still wearing my necklace. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said. "What do you want, Vanessa?" She turned, and I saw tears on her cheeks. Real tears, not the performance from the funeral. "I want to tell you the truth. The real truth." She walked to the desk and pulled out a folder. "William didn't just give me your necklace. He stole from his father's company. Almost $300,000 over 2 years." She pushed the folder toward me. "This is proof." I stared at the documents spread across the desk. Bank statements, transfer records, emails discussing offshore accounts. William had been embezzling from his own father's company. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. Vanessa wiped her eyes. "Because I'm done being used. William promised me everything. Said we'd use the inheritance to start over. But I found out last week he's been telling me the same lies he's been telling you." She pulled up her phone, showing me text messages. Messages where William told her he loved her. Messages where he promised to leave me. Mixed with messages to another woman. And another. "William isn't just having an affair with me," Vanessa said. "There are at least 3 other women. I'm just the one stupid enough to fall in love with him." My legs went weak. I sat heavily in Robert's old chair. "You wore the necklace to the funeral to hurt me," I said slowly.
No.
"I wore it because I wanted Robert to see it. I wanted him to know his son was a liar, even in death." She laughed bitterly. But Robert already knew. He'd been investigating William for months before he died. Vanessa pulled out another document. A letter from Robert to his lawyer. Robert knew about the embezzlement. He was planning to turn William in to the police. Then he had the stroke. I read Robert's letter, his handwriting shaky but determined. My son is a thief and a liar, but he is still my son. I am placing conditions on his inheritance to force him to be honest with Claire. She deserves to know the truth. If William cannot honor his marriage for 1 year, he deserves nothing. Tears blurred my vision. Robert was giving him a chance to choose. He was giving you both a chance, Vanessa corrected, to see who William really is. She sat across from me. I'm not a good person, Claire. I knew William was married when we started seeing each other. I convinced myself you didn't understand him, that he was trapped in an unhappy marriage. I was wrong. Why tell me all this now? Vanessa touched the necklace. Because William promised me he'd leave you after the will reading, that we'd take the inheritance and run. When I saw the conditions, I realized he was trapped. He'd never leave you voluntarily, not with millions at stake. She unclasped the necklace. This belongs to you. It always has. She handed it to me, the sapphires cool against my palm. I loved him, Vanessa whispered. That's the pathetic part. I actually loved him. We sat in Robert's office until midnight, 2 women destroyed by the same man, sharing the ugly truth neither of us wanted to face. The next morning, I confronted William with everything. The embezzlement. The other women. The real reason Robert changed his will. William tried to deny it at first. Then he tried to justify it. Then he just looked tired. What do you want from me, Claire? He asked. The truth. Did you ever love me? He was quiet for a long time. I loved who I thought you were. But marriage is hard. Dad's expectations were crushing. Vanessa made me feel free. Free to steal? Free to cheat? Free to be imperfect. He met my eyes. You were always so good, Claire. So devoted to Dad. So perfect. I could never measure up. So, you stopped trying? I found other ways to feel successful. William stood, pacing our living room. I know about the will conditions. I know I'm supposed to stay married to you for a year. And what? You think I'll just play along so you can inherit? I think you loved my father enough to honor his wishes. He wanted us to try. The audacity took my breath away. Robert wanted you to be honest with me. To choose our marriage over your lies. You've done neither. William's expression hardened. If you leave me now, you'll be the one who broke us. Is that what you want? I spent the next week moving between Margaret's house and long drives alone. Margaret had offered me her guest room, and I'd accepted gratefully. I couldn't stay in the house with William, couldn't look at him without seeing Vanessa, the other women, the stolen money. Margaret found me one evening sitting in Robert's old study, the real necklace in my hands. What are you going to do, dear? I looked up at her kind face. The practical thing would be to stay married for a year. Let William get his inheritance. I'd get the money Robert left me either way. But I can't spend a year pretending. Robert didn't want me to suffer for William's sins. He wanted me to have a choice. Margaret sat beside me. Robert would want you to choose yourself. He always did. The door opened. Vanessa walked in, and Margaret tensed. But Vanessa looked different. Smaller somehow, without the necklace and the confidence. I'm sorry to intrude. Margaret let me in. She held up a thick envelope. There's something else you need to know. About William and Robert's business. She handed me the envelope. After I showed you the embezzlement proof, I kept digging. William wasn't just stealing for himself and his affairs.
He was gambling.
Online poker, sports betting. He's lost over $500,000 in 2 years. The documents confirmed everything. William had a serious gambling addiction. Armed with the evidence, I called a lawyer. Not Gerald Patterson, Robert's lawyer, but someone recommended by Margaret who specialized in marital fraud. Jennifer Park listened to my story, reviewed the documents, and smiled grimly. This changes everything. The will states you must remain married, but it doesn't account for criminal activity. If William has been embezzling and gambling away company assets, you have grounds for legal separation that wouldn't violate the will's terms. She explained that Robert's will conditions assumed good faith. William's theft and deception meant I could pursue separation while still potentially claiming the inheritance meant to protect me. But, Jennifer warned, William could fight this. It would get ugly. I don't care, I said. I'm done protecting him. The next step was confronting William with everything. I chose to do it at the lawyer's office, with Jennifer present. William arrived in a suit, clearly expecting a negotiation. His face fell when he saw Vanessa sitting beside me. "What is this?" he demanded. Jennifer laid out the evidence, systematically. The gambling debts, the multiple affairs, the embezzlement. With each revelation, William's face grew paler. "I'm offering you a choice," I said. "Sign divorce papers now. Admit to your father's lawyer that you violated the spirit of the will, and I'll agree not to press criminal charges for the embezzlement." "That money was my inheritance anyway," William protested. "You stole from a dying man," Vanessa said. "From your own father." William signed the papers. He had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming, and the threat of criminal charges was real. Jennifer structured the divorce to show that William's actions violated his father's intent, making me eligible for the inheritance protections Robert had built in. Frank Morrison, Robert's business partner, agreed to testify that William's embezzlement had harmed the company. Gerald Patterson, after reviewing everything, conceded that Robert's will conditions couldn't force me to stay married to a criminal. The divorce would take months to finalize, but the separation was immediate. William moved out of our house into a small apartment. His inheritance was frozen pending investigation of the missing company funds. Margaret offered to let me stay with her permanently, but I declined. I needed to stand on my own. Vanessa sent me one final text. "I'm moving to Seattle. Starting over. I hope you find peace, Claire. You deserved better than both of us." I blocked her number. Not out of anger, but because I needed to close that chapter completely. The other women William had been seeing came forward during the divorce proceedings. Each one thought she was special, that William had chosen her. We were all just escape routes from his real problems. 2 months after the funeral, I visited Robert's grave again. The headstone was in place now, simple and elegant like he'd always been. I knelt by Robert's grave, the real necklace around my neck for the first time since the funeral. "Thank you," I whispered, "for trying to protect me, for seeing what I couldn't see." The truth was complicated. Robert had known about William's affairs and theft. He could have told me directly, but instead he'd built a trap that forced the truth into the light. Maybe he hoped William would change. Maybe he knew William wouldn't and wanted to give me a way out. Either way, Robert's final gift was truth. The divorce moved forward. William tried to fight for the inheritance, claiming I'd manipulated evidence. But Jennifer was thorough, and the evidence was damning. 6 months after Robert's death, the court ruled in my favor. The inheritance would go to me, as Robert had intended if William failed to honor his marriage. The amount was staggering. Beyond the $200,000 Robert had left me directly, I received the house, the business shares, and control of the company. Frank Morrison offered to buy out my shares, giving me financial independence. I accepted. I didn't want to run the business, just be free from it. William disappeared after the final court ruling. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved to another state, started over with a new job and a new life. I didn't wish him ill. I just wished him away from me. A year after the funeral, Margaret threw a small dinner party. Just close friends and family, celebrating not just survival but growth. I'd spent the year in therapy, untangling 12 years of marriage to a man I'd never really known. I'd traveled, something William and I never did because he claimed we couldn't afford it. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I'd started writing, something I'd always wanted to try. At the dinner, Margaret raised a glass. To Claire. To new beginnings and hard-earned wisdom. Everyone drank. As the evening wound down, Margaret pulled me aside. "Robert would be so proud of you. Not for leaving William, but for choosing yourself." I wish he'd told me directly, I admitted. Why go through all the will complications? Margaret smiled sadly. "Because Robert knew you. You would have stayed with William anyway if Robert had just told you about the affair. You're loyal to a fault, dear. Robert needed you to discover the truth yourself, so you believe it." She handed me an envelope. "This is from Robert. He left it with me to give you on the anniversary of his death if things worked out the way he hoped. Inside was a letter in Robert's shaky handwriting. Dear Claire, if you're reading this, my plan worked. You discovered the truth about William and chose yourself. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help you through it, but I knew you were strong enough. Robert's letter continued. The necklace I gave you belonged to my mother. She wore it through her own difficult marriage, through her own journey of choosing herself. When she died, she made me promise to give it only to someone strong enough to honor what it represents. That person was you. Tears streamed down my face as I read. I saw William's true nature too late to stop my own mistakes raising him. But I refused to let him destroy you too. You were more of a child to me than my own son became. If William had chosen differently, honored you and our family, he would have earned his inheritance fairly. But I knew he wouldn't. I'm sorry for putting you through this test, but I needed you to see the truth yourself. The letter ended with, Be free, Claire. Be happy. And know that I loved you as a daughter. The sapphires are yours, free from lies. May they remind you that you're strong enough to shine on your own. I folded the letter carefully, pressing it against my heart. Margaret hugged me as I cried, releasing years of pain and grief and betrayal. But beneath the tears, I felt something else. Relief. Freedom.
Strength.
I wore Robert's necklace every day now. Not as a memory of loss, but as a reminder of my own worth. The sapphires caught the light as I moved through my new life, each facet reflecting a woman who'd survived betrayal and chosen herself. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, remember this. The truth always surfaces. And when it does, you have a choice. You can stay trapped in comfortable lies, or you can walk through the pain toward freedom. I chose freedom. I chose myself. And I've never regretted it. The necklace Robert gave me wasn't just jewelry. It was a legacy of strength, a reminder that sometimes the people who love us most give us exactly what we need, even if it hurts. Subscribe if you believe in the power of choosing yourself, even when the choice is hard. Because in the end, your own respect matters more than anyone else's approval. And that truth, that's the real inheritance.